He becomes a wolf at night when the full moon is showing, a savage, unstoppable beast. He's also a teenager who lives in LA. It's Werewolf by Night today on Comicology. So this is the part where I would explain to you guys, for those who don't know, a werewolf is such and such, but I'm not going to do that. Much like how a mummy is a horrific personification of unfinished business, the werewolf is basically a personification of unconquered rage. Everyone who is anyone knows this story. Every human on the planet can relate to what it's like to be a werewolf. That kind of rage is beyond explanation. It's intrinsic. Imagine that kind of terror. To have your body and mind suddenly lose control and become animalistic. It's a terrifying thought, but it's not a form that lacks merit. For example, did you know that a werewolf has superhuman strength and agility? It also has enhanced senses and perfect reflexes, which make it difficult to fight and nearly impossible to kill. It also has razor-sharp claws and teeth, which are strong enough to rip through wood and even some metals. And it's a natural hunter capable of tracking its prey with perfect stealth for miles. Then again, on the flip side, in contrast to all those gifts, the werewolf is a being of pure rage. It cannot be tamed in any capacity. Where the wolf stalks, it must destroy. It also has a weakness to silver. Much like vampires, the purity of that specific metal is hazardous to the werewolf's healing abilities, meaning any injury that it suffers through that specific metal will not heal quickly, and serious injuries from that metal will be fatal. As you can see from this cover here, the werewolf we're studying today is none other than Jack Russell, who is famous in Marvel continuity for his adventures in the night. There are years of history behind this character, and it all starts right here in this issue. As for those who didn't pick up on it, the name Jack Russell is a play on the name Jack Russell Terrier, which is a breed of dog that looks like this. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this guy is cute. He's such a cute little pup. I can't imagine this thing doing any harm to anybody. So to be clear, Jack is a young man who lives in Los Angeles and is not necessarily a bad person. He's not a villain outright. But as all werewolf stories express, it doesn't matter what kind of morals you hold. When the beast takes over, you lose all control. Needless to say, this is a terrifying concept, but in Jack's case, it's actually not too terrible. Marvel keeps his werewolf antics under control for the most part. He never does anything too terrible or too vile to the point where he would become unlikable as a character. I would pin him much closer to an anti-hero than an actual villain. For those who think of this as a missed opportunity, I have to disagree with you. Based on my research, I have deemed Jack Russell to be a very interesting character, full of entertainment value. His history speaks for itself. If he wasn't popular, he wouldn't have had his own series, but even more than that, I find it impressive how he walks the line between being a raging animal and a sympathetic being. But anyway, let's get into the story. Be warned, this is actually a long one. The story starts with the werewolf already out stalking the streets at night, when suddenly he is attacked by a man holding a knife. The fight doesn't last long, however, as this man specifically is far out of his league. The police show up to arrest the wolf, but he escapes into the sewers. There's a search party out looking for him, but there's no chance that they're gonna find him. The werewolf hops over the fence and runs off into the night, while thinking its basic barbaric thoughts. It doesn't seem to know who it is, or where it is, or even what it is. But it knows for a fact that it must run. The next morning, Jack Russell wakes up to a cold sweat. He just had a terrible dream and he doesn't know if it was real or not, but he remembers it vividly. Today is actually Jack's birthday and the whole family wants to celebrate with a party, except the family chauffeur who seems to be giving Jack's mom a really hard time. You need to remember that chauffeur. His name is Grant. He'll come up later. That night at Jack's party, he suddenly starts having feelings, strange feelings. He starts to have some kind of strange panic attack at the sight of the moon and runs off towards the safety of the night. Jack finds himself on a beach and is now again a werewolf. Half of his brain is horrified at what he has become, but the other half of his brain is overcome with animal instincts. Suddenly, Jack catches a scent which will lead him to another wolf. This is a normal wolf, much smaller than Jack, but Jack is willing to fight it either way. The wolf smashes into Jack, and they both go flying down a cliff. The wolf seemingly falls into an abyss, leaving Jack there to fend for himself. Jack wanders for a moment before suddenly he starts to feel strange again. He makes his way to the beach where he passes out and wakes up back in his human form. So I love how the last 5 pages of this comic were completely void of any sort of plot details. He literally just becomes a werewolf and wanders around getting into shit all night. I love it because you don't have that time to waste in comics usually. And it's a rare treat when artists are willing to devote that kind of time just to that sort of character development. Jack's family brings him back home, but everybody is grieving over Jack's mother. While he was out being a wolf, she got herself into a car crash. It turns out someone had cut her brake line, and she was in a terrible wreck. Jack leaves to visit his mom in the hospital, but before he does, he gets a glimpse of the chauffeur having shady conversations with some mysterious individual. When he makes it to the hospital, he discovers that his mother is devastated. She doesn't have long to live, and she reveals that she knows Jack is becoming a werewolf. Jack's mother was once married to a baron, who is in fact a werewolf. They lived happily, but once a month they would lock themselves away in a tower for 3 days and 3 nights until one night when the tower was struck by lightning, and he got loose. He killed a villager, and a mob came for him. They looked inside the tower and found nothing, so they deduced he had become a werewolf, and they went on a hunt for him in the woods. Eventually they located him, and using silver bullets they shot and killed the baron, leaving Jack alone with his mother. She grieved, and then she moved away to remarry in the city of Los Angeles. Suddenly Jack is overwhelmed with emotions. He begins to turn into a wolf as he suddenly puts all the evidence together and determines that Grant the chauffeur had killed his mother. Jack escapes from the hospital and then uses his superior sense to hunt down his prey to an old warehouse where Grant seems to be setting up a meeting. Jack stalks his prey but underestimates Grant's supposedly incredible strength. He is able to go toe-to-toe with Jack in an equal fight. Eventually Grant gets the upper hand and tosses Jack through a wall. He is under the impression that Jack is just wearing a mask and that he's not in actual danger. Then suddenly, as they struggle against each other, Grant discovers that Jack is truly a werewolf, and he is in actual real-life danger. Grant freaks out and makes a run for it, but Jack is too quick and pounces on Grant's back and drags him back into the darkness, where he supposedly kills him, but we don't see for sure. Then suddenly someone new enters the warehouse. It's Jack's stepdad, who walks in looking for Grant and holding a bag of money. Jack nearly kills his own stepfather, but is held back by memories of his mother. Realizing that his stepfather arranged to have his mother killed, Jack is filled with anger and howls loudly at the moon as his stepfather drives away, free as a bird. And that's where it ends, guys. What a freaking cliffhanger. Leaving me to wonder how it's going to get resolved, but unfortunately I don't have time to finish the full story just yet. This one's going to take a while. This is a long series. But by the time this episode goes up, I should also have Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Mummy available for you to watch. 4 whole new series featuring the most famous monsters of all time. And I am excited to keep it going, but for now I'm calling it quits. I have to admit though, I really love where this book is going. I love that there's a werewolf and that he's written in a very humanistic way. You know, he's not just a complete monster. It's got the perfect balance between his personal life and his sort of beastly side. It's truly masterful. In fact, I'm impressed by all the other monster comics I've read. They're all really good. I look forward to reading more of them. So if you liked reading this book with me and you want to read more, you should definitely subscribe because there's going to be more coming. And if you want to support me, I've left some links in the description where you can do that. But until next time, as always, keep reading comics. Bye.